music with my bro. Willing to dig it, yes or no? Here we go on with the show, the Hear Me Out Bro podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 18 of the Hear Me Out Bro podcast. We've wrapped up our Mount Rushmore series, and today we're going to be assembling our fantasy football dream supergroups, picking all of our artists that we would love to see work together. So I'd like to welcome my brother Clark.
Hello.
If you want to listen along to the playlist, you can find us at HMOBP on YouTube. And if you want to send us any questions, comments, feedback, you can reach us at hearmeoutbropodcast@gmail.com. All one word, all lowercase, hearmeoutbropodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to join our Facebook community, it's the HMOB, H-Mob on Facebook. If you want to join us there, get notifications when a new episode drops, see some goofy pictures, and give us any comments or anything there. If you want to chat on the page there, we can do that.
Yep.
Any reflections on the whole Rushmore month besides we forgot lots of people?
That was
probably should have included.
Pretty much my takeaway was like, oh, how did we do this? Like, are we too focused on rock and roll?
Well, I'm satisfied with all of our picks, as far as who got up on Rushmore.
Yeah, me too. But there were some glaring omissions.
Yeah, there was some people that probably should have been mentioned that just slipped our minds, or will be saved for or talked about on another podcast where we just talk about that group, right. Single them out. But we did have some groups that, through our honorable mentions and our picks and our nominations, we have some bands that were fully represented in our shows. So the bands that were represented in our picks, those that were 100% represented are Iron Maiden, Thin Lizzy, Rush.
You're including honorable mentions.
Okay. Yep. As long as we brought them up. Because even an honorable mention could have ended up on the Rushmore.
That's true.
Through deliberation. So, yeah, Rush, Deep Purple, Cream, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Was there. And also 2 versions of Black Sabbath. The Dio era, Mob Rules, Heaven and Hell, Black Sabbath, and also the Born Again Ian Gillan version of Black Sabbath.
Right.
All fully represented.
Yeah, people forget that Black Sabbath has had a whole mess of singers. It's not just Ozzy and Ronnie.
Right. And I can't recall, and I haven't gone back and listened to all, 12 hours or whatever it ended up being of the podcast, but it's possible that Bad Company was fully represented, because I had Paul Rogers and I mentioned Boz Burrell, and I think I mentioned Simon Kirke in the drum episode, and I think I mentioned Mick Ralphs in the guitar episode.
I think so.
But I might be thinking about past episodes where I talked about them. I'm not sure. They're close to being fully represented.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to hear a little Bad Company to get us in the mood with rock and roll fantasy. But next we'll go down to 80% represented was Yes, the Faces, and the Jeff Beck Group.
Cool.
75% represented were the Billy Cobham Band and Led Zeppelin and Van Hagar.
Oh, yeah.
And
who'd we... Oh, was it
Sammy Hagar,
Robert Plant,
Eddie Van Halen?
Well, yeah, but Robert Plant we left off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had John Paul Jones as a honorable mention on bass. And we had Jimmy Page, and we had
it's kind of telling, like two iconic rock singers, Ozzy Osbourne and Robert Plant, and we just nah.
Yeah, didn't make the cut. Sorry, fellas.
Maybe next time. Jeez.
Yeah, but we had Van Hagar because I mentioned Alex Van Halen.
Yeah.
And Sammy Hagar was one of my picks, and Eddie Van Halen made our Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and at 2/3 or 66% represented, we have the Rory Gallagher Band, Rory Gallagher and Jerry McAvoy.
Yes.
For 2/3 representation, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience with Jimmy and Mitch Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
So those were bands that were 2/3 represented. And then we have 3/5 represented at 60%. And we have AC/DC as being 3/5 represented with Malcolm and Angus and Phil Rudd.
Again, one band, but two totally badass singers. It's a snub. Brian Johnson
and Bon Scott.
Oof.
Might have a remedy for that though later in the show.
Maybe.
Okay, so to get us in the mood, should we check out Rock and Roll Fantasy?
Absolutely.
To get us amped up for our project picks and to name our band picks.
Should we atonally sing along like we did last episode?
I'm just going to air drum for like the little pew pew like disco drum parts.
Okay, cool.
And we don't have to listen to the whole thing, but just to like set the mood.
It's 3 minutes and it's a great song.
Okay, this is Bad Company with Rock and Roll Fantasy. Are you ready to enter a world of fantasy?
I guess I've never listened to that song on headphones. I never noticed how many disco drums were in it. Like, holy crap.
I know, it's awesome. Hypnosis made the coolest album covers too.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great album cover.
Are you ready to announce your picks? Do you have your lineup list?
Yep.
For your fantasy supergroups?
Yeah, so we're just going to list them off.
We'll list off our band members, and then we'll take turns presenting our projects that we would like to hear from our fantasy bands.
Okay, and listen to the songs.
Yeah.
While we do that. Okay, cool. Got it.
Okay, so first up is vocalists. Who do you got for your fantasy band vocalist?
The one and only Ronnie James Dio.
Oh, nice. I picked Rod Stewart. You probably didn't see that coming. But yeah, that was my pick.
There.
Okay, who do you have for guitar?
Rory Gallagher.
Whoa, nice. I have Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers.
Cool.
Okay, who do you have for drums?
The one and only Neil Peart.
Whoa.
Or Peart, if you're nasty.
I picked Carmen Apiece.
Nice.
Okay, who do you got on bass?
The one and only Phil Lynott.
Whoa.
Going back to Ireland.
Vocalist.
Double dip from Ireland.
Yep. And you have the bonus vocalist too.
Yep. Got a plan.
Oh, nice. I picked Leland Sklar. Okay. Did you pick a keyboard player?
I did. I don't know if he's a sir, but he's a sir in my heart. Sir John Lord.
Nice. He's a lord.
That's true.
If he's not a sir, he is a lord.
Fair. It's right there in the name.
I picked Billy Payne of Little Feat.
Okay.
And did you choose a wild horse? as like a guest artist or like to be able to sub in?
Yeah. So my lineup is heavily stacked with singers, possibly because I'm not a musician, but I figured what's a good food metaphor? You know, when you're making a gravy, you got like butter and cornstarch and all the drippings and stuff, but you need something to brighten it up. So my mustard in this stew of umami is Stevie Nicks.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. My wild horse is Angus and Malcolm Young.
Whoa.
Okay. So once again, real quick, just give your full rundown, top to bottom.
All right. On vocals, Ronnie James Dio. On guitar, Rory Gallagher. On drums, Neil Peart. On bass, Phil Lynott. On keyboard, John Lord. And filling in on one very epic song that I have in my brain, the incomparable Stevie Nicks.
Awesome. Okay, mine is Rod Stewart on vocals, Mike Campbell on guitar, Carmine Appice on drums, Leland Sklar on bass, Billy Payne on keys, and Angus and Malcolm Young on more guitars as my wild horse.
More guitars. You can never have too many guitars.
I didn't think up a band name. Did you think up a name for your band?
May have, just because I'm a nerd, but it also kind of just turned into the theme for the project. So
yeah, I didn't think up a band name.
Yeah, I think it doesn't really need a band name because it is like such a huge super group, and it's like this much volatility might be too much for, like an extended, for a bunch of people on a tour bus.
Yeah. Okay, are you ready to present your project?
Yeah, should we state project first or like build up?
Well, it can be revealed as you play your songs, or you can just kind of give your overall general concept. I mean, however you want to do it.
Okay, fair.
The floor is yours.
All right. So my thought process, so I had this on the back burner all week, and it was like every time I thought like, okay, like close your eyes, imagine like you're putting this super group together, and it's like, well, I don't really want to hear Bill Ward without Geezer Butler. Like they're kind of conjoined in my mind because they gel so well together.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, but if I already have like Ronnie James Dio was like my lock, he's my favorite singer of all time. And it's like, well, if I have Geezer Butler and Bill Ward, it's like, am I just recreating Dio era Sabbath, aka Heaven and Hell? Like,
kind of, yeah.
I would be totally happy with. But it's like, okay, that's like a super group project that's already happened. So it's like, what else could I do? And then it was like, okay, well, if I do this, like, okay, I don't know. Like, I was kind of thinking, like, if I just pick heavy hitters, like, okay, Neil Peart on drums. Okay, that guy was like a huge nerd, like fantasy nerd. And it's like, well, so was Ronnie James Dio. It's like, is that going to be too nerdy? And then it's like, okay, what if you had like
really?
There is though. I mean,
well, not for the purpose of our podcast though.
Yeah, I love Deep Purple and I love Rainbow, but like, I don't listen to Blackmore's Night. Like,
right.
And so it was like, okay, well, do I have something? Do I have like somebody come in to temper that? Like, do I have Lemmy Kilmister come in on bass to be like hey, but it's also got to kick ass. Like, and then I was like, well, he was also in Hawkwind, so Lemmy's definitely read some Michael Moorcock. And
yeah, actually, this week I was thinking, like, what a band of just the Wild Horse players would be.
mm-hmm.
So on vocals for the Wild Horse, we had Steve Grimmett.
Oh yeah,
from Grim Reaper.
Yep.
And our Wild Horse guitar player was Chuck Berry. And our Wild Horse drummer was Carmen Apiece. Is that right?
Yeah.
And our Wild Horse keyboard player was Jeff Wayne and Rick Wakeman.
Dude.
So, yeah. Oh, and our...
That's a pretty powerful force.
Yeah, and the reason I brought it up is because our Wild Horse bass player was Lemmy. Yeah, so this band is called Crazy Horse, not to be confused with Neil Young's band.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you mentioned Lemmy, I thought, oh yeah, what would the band be if it was all of our Crazy Horse picks?
That would be a pretty epic band. Like, it doesn't seem like it would go together, but then like Chuck Berry and Lemmy could definitely like throw down
Get
together
on somehow. Yeah. And like with Rick Wakeman and Jeff Wayne, I think it would kind of like settle into this like Hawkwind kind of vibe.
Yeah.
With Steve Grimmett singing over it. So
I'm not mad at that.
Could be cool. Anyways,
but so
continue on.
Then I was like, okay, well, if I have Lemmy on bass, like, okay, is it just going to be like a rehashed Hawkwind, but somehow even nerdier? And then I was like, okay, well, what about guitars? Like, man, there's some real guitar wizards out there. And I was like, well, what if like the temper is like the tempering force is the guitar and bass player. And once I thought like, oh yeah, okay, Rory Gallagher, like he's a little more kind of like rock and roll. And then it's like, well, Thin Lizzy's also kind of rock and roll. They're both from Ireland. But then they also like Ireland has a lot of cool mythology. And even though they're more Thin Lizzy and Rory Gallagher are more known for like their straightforward rock and roll, they do write a lot of like kind of mythologically fantastical songs. It was like, okay, there it is. There's my project.
You're going to do a rock musical version of Darby O'Gill and the Little People? Or
yeah.
What's that?
King Brian.
Really?
Why do you hate King Brian so much?
I don't hate King Brian.
All right, then. Like, as goofy as that movie is, well, not as goofy as that movie is. That movie is not goofy. That movie is actually super badass. It has a banshee in it. Like, what's cooler? And the black coach.
Oh, man.
That movie's 10 out of 10, dude. And then, like, King Brian, like, okay, yeah, it's like they use forced perspective and it's pretty goofy and like the depiction's pretty goofy, but it's like King Brian was like really part of Irish mythology, and like Brian Boru, man, like he was a real dude, I think he was a real dude and like a folk hero too. Yeah. Irish mythology is, and it's got leprechauns. So I guess now that the leprechaun's out of the bag.
Wait, did I actually guess it?
No. Well,
okay.
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah, so my project, my literal fantasy, rock and roll fantasy, is sort of a rock musical, but more like a concept album based on the Tuatha De Danann, like the like old gods or like original like folklore of Ireland had like came over with the Celts. So you've probably heard of Lugh and Nuada and Bridget and of course the Morrigan, like the like raven goddess of death.
Well, that's cool because you have male singers and female singers,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have Phil Lynott can also sing.
Mm-hmm. So can Rory.
Oh man, yeah.
So
they can do parts.
They can
play characters.
Yeah. So Ronnie can be kind of like the narrator, and then he can either like sing the parts of Dagda, like the great god, one of the main characters, like Nuada and Lugh. Their parts could be sung by Rory and Phil Lynott.
It'd be cool if everybody sang their parts, but the narration was like actual narration, like Fountains of Lamnenth kind of narration.
Oh yeah.
For weary travelers.
Well, doesn't Neil do that part?
Dude, I gotta say, your album concept is about 100 times more proggy than mine is.
Well, it had that potential, but when you listen to my picks, other than one of them, it'll gel together and make a lot more sense. Like it's more rock and roll than prog.
Okay.
Like it'll have some, but only for like parts of it, you know, for like when things get really mystical, like whenever anybody, you know, uses magic or whatever, or like goes through like a fairy ring or something, John Lord will step in and
nice.
So I managed to pick like once the idea for it started to gel together, it was like, oh yeah, totally. Like there's kind of a connecting thread through this whole thing, and like it totally sets the vibe, and then like all of the songs have some mythology in there. So
nice.
Should we listen to them all?
Yeah.
All right. So my first pick is Ronnie James Dio singing with Rainbow and The Temple of the King, one of my favorite Rainbow songs of all time.
Oh man, that's the perfect song to start it off with, because like I can totally like start picturing your whole concept now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's like that kind of Dio mood, you know, it's like,
yeah,
oh man, I want to hear this album. I want to hear this whole tale, this story unfold.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, and I did a little research while we were listening, and Terry Brown did Cygnus, but it was Neil that did The Necromancer and Grand Finale.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you do have a narrator on your team, if so needed.
Although it's like John Lord never really
would have a cool British accent.
Yeah, he'd have a cool British accent. He has like a total like gentle like grandpa kind of voice.
Yeah.
So
he might cool. Win the nod on that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's Irish. Or Rory might just narrate the whole thing. Like get a thick Gaelic accent going.
Yeah. I mean
options.
It would be a little too on point to have an Englishman describe Irish myth to the rest of us.
All right, what's your next example?
So the next example is Rory Gallagher and Moonchild.
Nice. Yeah, I can really see your album coming together. Like just the sounds and the directions and stuff.
Right.
I was wondering, because I was wondering, did any of my guys ever actually play together? And I was just wondering the same thing about your guys. And so far, the only thing I found is Phil Lynott and Rory Gallagher played together in 1982. It was the 5th birthday concert for Hot Press magazine. And they played a whole set of songs together.
Cool.
Yeah. And there's stuff on YouTube. So Phil and Rory did play together.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Also, on a tour with Deep Purple, Ronnie James Dio and John Lord played together.
Oh, yeah.
On some stuff. And also John Lord has a song called The Sun Will Shine Again. And in his set, he dedicates that to Ronnie James Dio when he plays it. So what made you pick Moonchild as an example?
It's one of the ones that's not a straightforward rock and roll song. And then I think Moonchild was, because I thought it predated Aleister Crowley, but Aleister Crowley wrote a novel called Moonchild. And and there's like a whole bunch of stuff. But I thought I read something.
It seems like a pretty common thing. I think he took the name from the same place everybody else took it from. I don't think Rory Gallagher was I don't think it was like Jimmy Page and being a big Aleister Crowley follower or anything.
No.
At least I hope not. I don't think he was.
Well, if he was, then Captain Beefheart, King Crimson, Rick James,
right,
Iron Maiden, and Debbie Gibson were also Aleister Crowley acolytes.
I could see Debbie Gibson, but I don't know about the rest of those guys.
This is not a QAnon podcast. Yeah, I can't remember it's also
I'm not going to say anything about King Crimson's Moonchild. I'll save that for another podcast.
For the Prague podcast.
Or for the King Crimson podcast.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay, I'm excited for this next pick just because I love this song.
Right? Yeah, so it's like, there's a ton of fantasy and fantasy adjacent stuff from Rush's catalog that I could have picked. But it's like, oh, no, I wanted something that's like kind of like tells a story and has like that same kind of like 70s like rambling song kind of vibe.
Uh-huh.
And so
and it also kind of demonstrates like that this is not completely out of Neil's wheelhouse.
Right.
To play on a project like this.
Right. Yeah, so this is Neil Peart and Rush with Making Memories.
I think Rory could give Alex a run for his money on slide guitar.
Right.
I love that solo that Alex does, but like, I think Rory might have him on that one. Slide's hard. It's funny to hear somebody play something and they're not really a slide player. And then to hear like a real slide player.
Right.
One of the bravest slide performances that I ever saw was I saw David Lindley open for the Grateful Dead.
Oh, wow.
And so like David Lindley just did this total slide guitar masterclass, And then the Grateful Dead has this song called, well, it's not their song, but that song, Little Red Rooster. And Bob Weir plays bottleneck slide on it. And not very well, but that's what they opened their set with. Like right after David Lindley played.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet that was on purpose.
To like come out your first song, like David Lindley's like on the bill
right
for that day. And to come out your first song, you're going to like play some sloppy bottleneck.
Right.
It's like not even, I don't think anybody, that was no one's favorite Grateful Dead song either. It's like, Bobby's gonna play some bottleneck slide. Yeah, well.
It's funny. So
yeah, I love that early Rush stuff.
Oh yeah,
especially when they get all strummy and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah,
it's like they weren't quite a band they would become. They still had kind of that little more rock and roll.
Yeah,
a little more 70s in them.
Well, and a lot of that stuff got buried too. It's like the second side of 2112 has some really cool songs on it.
Yeah, totally.
But it's like nobody ever talks about side B.
Right. Yeah, just because 2112 is such a monster.
That song Lessons from the B side of 2112.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that Sweet Memories one.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, and then it's
there's some cool songs on there.
Like Something for
One of
Nothing.
my favorite Neil Peart lines. Yeah. You won't get wise with the sleep still in your eyes, no matter what your dream might be.
Yeah, that's like, it starts out kind of slow. And it's like, is this going to be another Rivendell? And then it's like...
Yeah, then it just totally melts your face off.
Yeah.
Gets all majestic.
Mm-hmm. You don't have something for nothing. You can't have
the power and the majesty
for free
of early Rush.
Mm-hmm. So good.
And Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone was like kind of a trippy song too, like for like that era of Rush. I mean, it sounds like something they would have done later.
Mm-hmm.
And Passage to Bangkok, it's like the total stoner burner anthem. Dude.
So silly. We also need to talk about the Fly By Night album cover.
So rad.
Like, that Bad Company album cover is pretty cool, but it's like just a giant snowy owl. Like, what's cooler than that? What even is this? Like, I don't know. Like the debut Rush album cover, like, kind of fits. But it's like, oh yeah, like, it sounds like what's on the album. And then it's like, Fly By Night comes out. I gotta hear this. Like, what? Oh, what's happening here? Hey, old owl. So good.
Oh, man.
Years ago, I'm going to let my nerd flag fly for a little bit.
Is it an owl story?
I have plenty of owl stories, but this is owl adjacent.
I have a Rush owl story.
Nice. Like the local hobby store was hosting these paint nights. I think they were just called paint night. This company, Whiz Kids, that used to own, I think they currently own the rights to D&D, but like Hasbro is being weird and Elon Musk is trying to buy D&D. Whiz Kids would have these like paint night kits where they would sell like a pre-primed miniature, and it would have like a little palette of paints that you could use, and a brush, and I think like a little water cup thing. So it was like a kit, and you could go to like your friendly local gaming store, and they would host these events that you could sign up for, and like you go and sit around a table and paint a miniature, and they usually had one of the store employees like teaching you techniques and stuff. And so Erica and I started going, and I've taken my friend Trevor to one of them too. So it's like I've been painting miniatures for a super long time. And
yeah, I was going to say, did any of the store employees like try and give you tips or anything?
No, luckily they left me alone. And but it's like I started doing the speed painting contest at the convention, like the nerd convention, like years and years ago. And they also have a thing called a paint and take, where you like...
Do you want to give a shout out to your annual nerd convention?
KublaCon. I know we have at least one fan, one listener that goes to KubbleCon. Yeah, so they I think it's free, and it's just like they have a bunch of paints and brushes, and like I think like space is limited, so I don't think you have to sign up for it, but like if there's no room at the table or whatever for the paint and take, like they just have a bunch of miniatures that you can sit down and start painting. And they have somebody from like they have a whole paint staff, and there's usually somebody there like manning the paint and take to like give you advice or like tips or whatever. It's really cool. And it's like if you don't have anything, if you're like, oh, we got like 2 hours before somebody's game starts, before Tyler's game starts, like let's go do the paint and take. It's a pretty chill way to just sit around a table, yak with other people doing the same thing. It's kind of fun.
Uh-huh.
So when they have these paint nights at the game store, it's like, all right, let's go do it. Sounds like fun. First one was an owl bear, which is my favorite D&D beast, like D&D monster.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's like it's half owl, half bear, and it's always angry. Like,
oh man,
a lot of times, like you'd in like old school D&D, you'd like have a random encounter, and there'd be like a certain number of whatever the encounter was. So like, between 5 and 30 goblins. And then you'd like roll for the disposition of the goblins, like, oh, they're like scared or distracted or like hunting the players or, something. But then it's like the owl bear, just it's always angry. Like it's an owl bear. Like, so one of my favorite animals or favorite D&D monsters. And I got there, and it's like in a lot of the artwork, especially like the modern artwork, like the WizKids era artwork, they added a lot of like weird colors, or not weird colors, but just like non-natural colors to like really amp up like the fantasy vibe of it. But I always like one of my like Tolkien purist like indulgences is like I want my fantasy to be really grounded. Like, it has to make sense. It can't just be like all, mystical portals and swirling magic and what have you, ridiculous stuff. And so it's like, okay, I want to paint like an owl bear if it was a real animal, like paint it to look like a real animal. So Erica painted hers like
the taxonomic phenotype.
Yeah. So she painted hers like brown, like 2 shades of brown, like a light brown and a dark brown. Like bears, as you might know, don't have counter shading like most animals. But owls do. So like that was her one of the nods that she gave to the owl side of the owl bear. So I mean, it looks like, if a bear was crossed by an owl. But I was like, all right, I always have to do, like, even though I'm grounding it in some sort of fictional reality, I still want to go left field, just not like weird, crazy left field. And so I was like, closing my eyes, imagining like, okay, like what do I see for this miniature? And I was like, I looked at it face on and was like, done. And so painted it like a snowy owl. And it was like
with a polar bear body.
Yeah. And
nice.
Like everybody like walking around the table would be like, oh dude. Like Erica and like I think there was another old dude there, and they were like, fly by night.
Fly by night.
So
the bright orange eyes.
Yeah. So that was the thing I was gonna say. The album cover. It's like,
oh man.
I don't know. I'm old and lazy, and so I don't usually paint eyes on miniatures like I used to. But it's like this thing's huge for a miniature, and then it's like it's got the big giant eyes. So it's like I gotta nail these eyes. So it's like I did the little white highlight and everything. So
nice. So we got some fill next.
Yep. So yeah, there were a few different directions I could go with Thin Lizzy. They've got a bunch of cool kind of mythological songs, but
what's that? The Emerald song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to go for Vagabond of the Western World. So this is
nice.
Phil Lynott, Thin Lizzy, Vagabond of the Western World.
So rad.
Yeah, another cool album cover.
Yeah. Yeah. If all you've ever heard is Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak, you have some homework to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
So many cool albums.
Jailbreak, fantastic album.
Yeah.
But
Boys Are Back in Town is kind of overplayed on the radio.
But it's a great song.
But it's a great song. Right. But
yeah,
it's a deep well.
Yeah.
There's so much good stuff.
Yeah. So I think there could be like, rather than having it just like a straightforward, like hard rock or like a rock opera kind of thing, although it kind of would be a rock opera, but like if it kind of had was more like concept album and like kind of kept this like kind of 70s rock and roll, a la Rainbow, Rory Gallagher, Thin Lizzy, early Rush. Like
it's my favorite era of music. Kind of.
Yeah, but then they just like leaned into like the folklore thing, made like a folklore concept album.
Be cool.
I think it would be rad.
I'd sign up for it. Is there a Kickstarter?
Maybe.
We need a couple different kind of Kickstarters to get that project going.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing is, part of it's like, I forget the term. There's like a term for like when folklore may or may not have some historical, like deep ancestral root to it.
Mm.
And then sometimes it's just like other folklore gets adopted or mashed into it. Like, everybody's familiar with like the Norse sagas and like Norse mythology of like Odin and Thor and Freya, Loki and stuff. But like some of the lesser known ones where it's like a family and they do a bunch of like go on a bunch of adventures and stuff and have a bunch of weird experiences. And then like their sister goes off and marries Attila the Hun. Just because they're like, hey, that guy seemed pretty cool. So it like folds in like folk or like historical stuff and like epic stories from over there. Like
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. So there's like the Tuatha De Danann, like they weren't the first people in Ireland.
What the Tuatha Rhiannon? What?
Tuatha De Danann?
It's not Tuatha Rhiannon?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. Got one more song first. So like when they got there were already the Fomorians, and they were kind of, I don't know, they were different. They weren't the pretty people like the Tuatha were. They kind of have a like Aesir and Vanir versus the Jotuns kind of thing, kind of vibe. Like they're kind of trollish a little bit. Or at least that's how they're depicted a lot of times. But then like there's also like another group called the Fir Bolg, who like were like pseudo historical Irish Celts or Celts that like went to Greece and then came back. Like there's a lot of weird stuff. So there's like there's some historical stuff, and it's like, okay, it's like the Tuatha De Danann, like, are they like the first Celts that came there, and there were like Picts living on the island, like there were in Scotland, and like, the Picts being like indigenous tattooed people, like got their butts kicked by people from that emigrated there and had different technology, and so it's like, is this some sort of like ancestral memory or like history woven into folklore? Yeah, and then like later on, like when Christianity came to the island, like sometimes they were like the old gods were described as, those were fallen angels or devils or whatever, but it's like, the people still kind of held on to them, like, well,
yeah, it kind of tries to get tied in with the vernacular of the
and so they
predominant culture.
Eventually they became like the elves or the fairy folk,
the fae people.
Yeah, and so it was like a way they could like hang on to the old ways, like even under Christianity. And it's like, oh well, they're diminutive, like you don't have to worry about them. They're
tiny.
They're just little fairies. I don't know. I guess the point I was trying to make was that, like, there's sometimes there's like kind of straightforward, like this battle they fought against these guys, this great hero stepped forward, yada yada, and then sometimes there's like, powerful mystical forces, and so kind of 70s, even folky, folkloric, like mythological rock and roll, like sometimes it also needs like that, like extra dash of magic. So I figured anytime there could be like something really magical happening, John Lord could step in. And so
any kind of supernatural events going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is John Lord with Deep Purple and Stormbringer.
Nice. Yeah, there's another example of somebody that doesn't always play slide doing a slide guitar solo.
Right.
Are you ready for my disinformation musical facts?
Sure.
Okay, the voice at the beginning of that song was a special guest appearance from Wolfman Jack. And this is the second edition of the song. The first pressing of the album, instead of saying Ride the Rainbow, they said Taste the Rainbow, and they got a cease and desist from Skittles. So they had to recall all those records and go back in the studio and retrack to Ride the Rainbow instead of Taste the Rainbow, which was the original version.
I don't think that's true.
I don't know. You can fact check me if you want, but I'm pretty sure that's how it all went down.
And I'm pretty sure this was after Taste the Band.
No, this is before Taste the Band.
Was it?
Taste the Band is after Richie's departure.
Oh, okay. Okay, so was that like their response?
That was
Skittles?
their kind of like, that was kind of their thumb in the eye back to Skittles.
Okay,
like,
that makes sense.
Oh, we can't use taste, huh? How about this? We put it on the
Taste the
next
Rainbow?
album cover.
Taste the Band.
Yeah.
All right.
Taste the Band. Yeah, it was kind of like a way of getting back at Skittles.
All right.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
It all checks out.
Okay. Just don't Google it.
Do you want to replay the beginning part so you can hear the Wolfman Jack part again?
I guess. I'm not sure that was Wolfman Jack. It sounded like Wolfman Jack.
I'm pretty sure it was.
I mean, who else could it be?
Who else sounds like that?
Yeah.
If it's not Wolfman Jack, tell me who it is.
don't know.
Okay. That's the end of my disinformation segment. Yeah. That's some killer Moog synthesizer on there, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't always like it, but sometimes it's just like, how else are you gonna?
Sometimes it's cool.
Yeah, how else are you gonna make that sound?
Yeah, and John Lord's just not a Hammond organ guy. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a true wizard of the keyboard.
He's best known for his great organ solos.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got versatility.
He's a taste maker.
Yep.
Taste the rainbow.
So I was kind of like, okay, does our crazy horse have to be just like for one thing, or can they be
no
a couple things, or is it just like
they can be an integral part of the whole thing?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of really like powerful symbolic female characters in Irish mythology. Unlike like Norse mythology, which I'm more familiar with, there's not a whole lot of like duality of like, oh, this is this character and this is this character's rival kind of stuff. Not that there's a lot of that in Norse mythology, but like a lot of the characters are kind of foils for the other characters a little bit.
Yeah, there's always like a adversary or like a foe.
Yeah.
Well, not always, but often.
Yeah. But so there are kind of two main characters female characters in Irish mythology. And I don't know how to save the best for last because they're both totally rad. So there's the Morrigan, who's I would say she's the most famous, but she's not. If you've seen any kind of like Battle Crow or Battle Raven, that wasn't specifically from another mythology. It was probably the Morrigan. She's like associated with fate and foretelling of doom and war and stuff. And so she's kind of like, she's a god, but she's also kind of like a witch, and she's powerful but like very, very dangerous. Yeah, and very, very cool. But then there's also Bridget, who is perhaps the coolest out of all of them because she's like, associated with like springtime and renewal and like the natural world. And she's, just your typical like virginal maiden kind of like rad goddess. But then she's like, St. Patrick is part of Irish folklore and Christian folklore because he came to Ireland and drove all the snakes out. That's why there's no snakes in Ireland, and he brought Christianity to Ireland. Or so the legend goes. But so there's also Saint Bridget, who's the same character. And it's like she's a Catholic saint and a pagan goddess.
Yeah, it's cool how they like took all their folklore and just kind of had them like brought them to sainthood.
Yeah.
Bring them along.
It's like, we're still going to revere this person or this character because she was rad. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And then like there's like the Bridget's cross, which is a little suspect looking if you look at it quickly. Bringing it up because it's like, what
playing
better
the character of Bridget?
Yeah, like pagan goddess, but also like Christian saint. But then she could also play like a powerful witch who's like super awesome, but also kind of dangerous to know. So this is Stevie Nicks with Fleetwood Mac and Rhiannon.
Oh man, love me some Fleetwood Mac.
Right. So before we talk about Stevie and how awesome she is, we need to talk
You want
about.
me to talk about all the gear and stuff?
Well,
That was
before
distracting
that,
me.
we need to talk about how, like everybody else was on tour and like ready to play on stage, and John McVie just got done gardening and stepped onto stage.
Yeah, with his cutoffs and his baseball cap. He always dressed like that, though.
I know.
Yeah.
Like Stevie Nicks and like the sheer witch outfit, guitar
Yeah.
player and like the silk mono and bell bottom jeans.
Yeah, and he looks like a little kid headed to the Sandlot or something.
Mm-hmm. Cut off
Yeah.
baseball jersey.
So I didn't go into like our whole like ancestry and stuff, like when you were talking about all the Norse gods and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading some old like Norca history.
Okay.
And there was a woman there who was accused of being a witch, or it was rumored she was a witch.
Mm-hmm.
She, by the last name of Glanz. And there was a Margarita Glanz that was married to Johannes Ross, like way back when. So we might have some full good German, Norca, Russia, Rhiannon in our history.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Would explain a lot.
Yeah. Okay, can I talk about gear now?
Sure.
Yeah, you can see there, like, and you listen to, everybody thinks Fleetwood Mac was like these totally dead drum sets and stuff. And he did have like a dead, dull 70s sound, but he's playing like a big John Bonham sized drum set there, big 26-inch bass drum.
Mm-hmm.
Has the front head cut out, which John Bonham didn't. And that really changes the sound.
Okay.
But I mean, he's basically playing one of those big 26-inch Ludwig kits. And then also John McVie is playing that sweet alembic that was built in Santa Rosa.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a nice bass. That's the kind of, I need to come back down there. I think when we come down at the beginning of the year, hopefully I'll have enough done. I have an alembic project I'm trying to restore, an alembic bass, and I need to take it down to Mike Gutch and see if he can help me kind of put the finishing touches on it.
So does Sonoma County's musical thing predate dude from Grateful Dead who lived out in Sebastopol?
No, it's all kind of like around the same time.
Okay.
Because it was all the like flower children that like wanted to get out of the city and like, you know, found cheap land to the north.
Got it.
That whole like exodus occurred.
Okay.
And then it just like, became like, oh, I want to be close to the Bay Area, but I want to live somewhere nice and I want to have some land. I don't want a bunch of neighbors. So, you know, like a lot of the Metallica guys live in Marin County now. And
right.
And if you want to live somewhere nice, there's, you know, it's a pretty nice place to live.
True.
If you can afford it.
I was just wondering, like, what the musical connection were to, like, Mesa Boogie and EMG and Alembic and all these other
well, Alembic started in San Francisco. They're like the Grateful Dead's, like, technical crew kind of support. But then they moved from San Francisco up here so they could have like a factory and stuff.
Got it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the whole story, but you know, sometimes people have kids and like not want to raise them in the city.
Right.
So yeah, go somewhere else. And if you ever watch Streets of San Francisco, north of the Golden Gate Bridge, that's where like all the cults and weirdos and like goat farmers were. So like as bad as all the criminals in the streets of San Francisco were, the people across the Golden Gate Bridge were like totally terrifying to like the straight-nosed cops and stuff.
We had goats.
Yeah.
When we were kids.
They were a little more wild and free. It was like the lawless country.
But we had goats when we were kids, and now you're telling me that like Margarita Glons,
goats and Volkswagens
was one of our ancestors. Huh.
Yeah. And our biodynamic farmer on our mother's side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that Streets of San Francisco is a documentary?
Yeah.
Okay. A reality
Pretty
show.
much.
Got it.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. We can add that to the disinformation segment. All right. Yeah, like so far AI has kind of been a letdown. You know, it's like good for making thumbnails for like your lame YouTube video that you also add a bunch of AI voiceover stuff to, which I'm getting really annoyed by.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. The thumbnails are not enough for me to not click on it anymore. But and then you have like all the historical photograph stuff like, oh, look at this giant man standing with these people. And it's like, photographs weren't really sepia tone back then. Sepia tone is like something that they like came up with to make stuff look old. I don't know. Old photographs were not sepia tone. And you can tell that's totally fake. It's like people didn't do that.
Right.
That never happened. Yeah, I'm sick of AI so far. Like the promise of AI has fallen way short. But hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, our playlist will get loaded up into some AI bot and it'll create this album that you've presented to us today. Because I would love to hear it.
Right. Yeah. And like Stevie Nicks is the only surviving member of my playlist.
Oh, man. Yeah. Fortunately.
Yeah. I just think it would be cool. Yeah. It's like, this is all the kind of music that I like. And then you just kind of stir it in. And then like, oh, these are the choice bits from this band and the choice bits from that band. Like, see, they all could build this little stew together. So
yeah. Yep.
It would be like all the things I like.
Okay, give us your lineup one more time.
So Ronnie James Dio is the lead singer and possibly narrator, which could be cool. But then, you know, it's like he can do like clean vocals. He can also be kind of raspy and like bring the thunder. Then Rory Gallagher.
Yeah, he could do the butterfly ball vocals.
Yeah.
He sounds like Karen Carpenter.
But then he could also do like Mob Rules. Yeah.
Rainbow in the Dark. Yeah. Mob Rules, yeah.
And then Rory Gallagher, because not only is he an amazing guitar player, but like he's also a really cool songwriter. Like the way he phrases stuff is just like, I don't know. It's like salve for my soul. Like it's really cool.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in our Ireland episode, which is still our most popular episode to date. But yeah, it's like the Irish storyteller thing. Yeah. Like he has the same like storyteller DNA that Phil Lynott has.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be a lot of my favorite artists like tapping into that Irish storyteller thing.
Nice.
Yeah. And then Neil Peart on drums, phenomenal drum player, also really good songwriter, lyrics writer. And it's like, could you imagine?
Oh,
like
man.
When they really gotta like, okay, we gotta make this super epic.
Yeah. Or like just to have him play the part of editor, like, well, what about maybe this phrase or something, you know, like once they have it all written out. I mean, or even just collaborating. Man.
Yeah. Then Phil Lynott on bass and yet another great vocalist. Like, he kind of definitely has that more kind of leathery, growly voice, but then he, like, even when he's singing soft, it still kind of has that edge to it.
Yeah, I mean, they're already all character singers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then John Lord on keyboard for when you really have to like build the drama and the like.
Bring in the Peter and the Wolf musical
exactly.
theme.
Yeah, and then like then Stevie Nicks to like tie everything together and like bring that like witchy, sacred feminine element into this.
Yeah, her voice is so amazing. And
yeah. And she can do like the clean, soft vocals, and then it's like at the end of Rhiannon, like
and she's a like, great backup singer too.
Growling away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, but then it's like at the end of Rhiannon, she's like growling away. Like you could totally see her or hear her as the Morrigan.
Oh yeah.
Yelling about, somebody's
fate.
She
could play both characters. No problem.
Yeah. So like the title for the project, I think I came to it. The Silver Hand.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I like it. And when you get the box set of the whole thing with like the book and the LPs, like the two like 180 gram double album LPs, like you also get like a little silver hand, like a brooch kind of thing.
No.
Like a little silver hand that you could like tie your scarf and stuff with.
No, I'm just thinking it's like a double album, and like on the front cover, there's a like a silver hand. Either a fist or like spread out, and then like it kind of towards the edge, it like becomes more like flesh tone, and then on the other side, it's like it's a stump because it's been cut off. Because like Nuada had his hand cut off, and the blacksmith god made him a silver hand. And the one quick little note before we move on, I wanted to read you one of the kennings for the So Lugh, Lugh, one of the characters, he's like the warrior king. He's like total badass fighter and leader and stuff, like total Aragorn type dude. Like one of the kennings, or like his, like a lot of times in folklore when they'd like, especially when it's like oral based, like do you know what a kenning is? Like when it's like you call something else, but it kind of means the same thing, or it's like a different name for the character, or like a metaphor for the character. So like, what's one of the? Yeah, I'm totally drawing a blank. Anyway, so one of the alternate names or kennings for Lugh is like long hand or long arm, because he always used a spear, but then he was also like a leader and could like have a lot of influence.
He had reach.
He had reach, but then
what was the term you used last week? Riz,
yeah.
He had mad riz.
Yeah, he was a Rizzler.
Rizzler, not Twizzler.
No.
We don't want another candy company cease and desist.
So one of the other ones is Samel Danak, which I thought was like the coolest. Like it means equally skilled in many arts.
Nice.
Yeah. It's like he's not a one-trick pony. He's not like, oh, he's the god of this, or he's the hero that does this. It's like
he has a well-balanced character sheet.
Yeah, he's the Aragorn. Like, yeah, he can fight, he can lead, he can sing.
rolling 20s, baby.
Yep.
Yeah, cool project. That's cool how it just all kind of coalesced, you know?
Yeah.
I can just imagine like those. Did you ever make those candy crystals? I don't know why I have candy on my brain.
Yeah, it's like the rock crystal.
Yeah, you drop the thread down in
Yeah,
there.
rock candy or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just see all these like ideas coming to you.
Yep.
You're out walking your dog and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, on a autumn, fresh air on an autumn afternoon.
Yeah, I can totally picture it. It's like, why doesn't it exist? It would be so good.
Yeah, maybe in some alternate universe it all happened because, it's
Yeah.
not like our Crazy Horse. Well, our Crazy Horse band was all alive at the same time too. So,
Yeah. Overlapping.
yeah. But yeah, it's like all these people definitely were like around at the same time.
Missed opportunities.
Yep.
But we can fantasize about it in our Dream Fantasy Supergroup episode.
Yes.
Yes. It's all part of Clark's
Of my
rock and roll fantasy.
fantasy.
Pew, pew, boo, 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 boo.
Nice.
Okay. Are you ready for a total change of pace? Shift gears. Oh, man. Okay. Where's my glasses? So, just for review, my band is going to be Rod Stewart on vocals, Mike Campbell on guitar, Carmen Apiece on drums, Leland Sklar on bass, Billy Payne on keys, and Angus and Malcolm Young as my wild horse.
Okay.
Now, a bunch of these guys have played with each other at different times.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike Campbell hasn't played with anybody on my list.
I think this is the first time I have more songs
Oh, yeah.
playlist than you do. Or at least the first time in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Or well, I guess that's not. Well, I don't know.
Well, one of my videos has 4 songs on it.
Right.
We may or may not listen to all of them, but they're there. And I had stuff I was going to add to this that I took off because I wanted to keep it family friendly.
Okay.
Safe for work.
Got it.
Although you're listening to it. Anyways. But if you were playing our playlist, I wanted it to be safe for work. So Billy Payne played on a Rod Stewart album called Out of Order. And I had that song on the list, but there's nothing really spectacular about that one. So I decided not to share that one. And Carmen Apiece famously was in Rod Stewart's band. Played on like my favorite songs of Rod Stewart, besides when he was in the Faces, are like that era when Carmen Apiece was playing with him.
Okay.
And Carmen Apiece also wrote Do You Think I'm Sexy, which was a big hit for Rod Stewart.
Ah.
So
good to know.
If you don't think Rod Stewart's sexy and the song bothers you because Rod Stewart's singing Do You Think I'm Sexy and you're like, Rod Stewart, he's not sexy. Carmen Apiece wrote that song and everybody knows Carmen Apiece is hella sexy.
Right.
Also, Leland Sklar and Billy Payne played together on a few albums. This Bob Carpenter, Silent Passage. It's kind of an interesting album. It's like this singer-songwriter type album. Sounds like a cross between Cat Stevens and Gordon Lightfoot a little bit. So like if you're in the mood for that kind of jam, check out Bob Carpenter's Silent Passage. And David Lindley played on quite a few Rod Stewart albums, believe it or not. And Leland Sklar also played bass on Rod Stewart's 2 first solo albums. He played bass on, he played bass on Atlantic Crossing in 1975, and he played on A Night on the Town, and he played on A Night on the Town from 1976. So Leland Sklar played on both those albums. They had like 4 bass players on those albums, but Leland Sklar was one of them. And he has done so many recording sessions, he can't remember which songs he played on. So we don't know. But to start off with, I was going to play a song from A Night on the Town. This is, well, let me explain my concept first before I get to that. So this could be Leland Sklar playing on my first song on the playlist. But Rod Stewart was dating this Swedish model / actress at the time named Britt Ekland.
Oh yeah.
And she's a great singer and percussionist in her own right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the videos I was going to have on her is her singing Willow's song from The Wicker Man.
Mm-hmm. But it's not actually her singing. It's not her butt either.
Hey, this is the rock and roll fantasy episode, okay?
Okay, fair.
Okay.
She's the landlord's daughter. I mean, she gets that.
She does do good percussion though, like banging on the wall and slapping things and
totally, yeah.
Okay,
can't argue with that.
Okay, so anyways, Britt Ekland. So they dubbed over her voice because her Swedish accent was too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, please don't do that. That's a shame. What's wrong with a Swedish accent?
Well, because she was supposed to be from an island in the Hebrides.
I don't care.
Yeah, okay. And she had the body double because she was pregnant, and then she also claimed that the
it was some Scottish stripper or something.
She also claimed they killed a bunch of animals in the Wicker Man, but like no one else on the crew remembers it that way.
Yeah,
including the people who did all of the special effects and the director. So
well, let's just say that Britt Ekland could be persuasive.
Yeah, she's the landlord's daughter.
Okay, so
I'm not gonna pick nits.
So she suggested to Rod Stewart, well, when you make your album on his albums, he should have a slow side and a fast side. So apparently she was persuasive because he did that on his next 3 albums. He had a slow side and a fast side. So my concept is that it would be kind of like Britt Ekland's idea, but we wouldn't have a slow side. We'd have a fast side, and then we'd have like a faster, harder side. So we'd have like a Faces-esque side, and then we'd have like a little bit faster and heavier side of Rod Stewart that we always wished we could hear, but we never really got to hear. So that's my concept album idea. So let's just play the first song so we can see how persuasive Britt Ekland is. And this might be Leland Sklar playing on it. And Britt Ekland also doesn't speak French. Well, she does speak French, but she's not French. But if you want to hear what her voice is actually like, she actually did the vocals at the end of this song. And on this TV show, they thought it would be cool to have her come out and do the vocals with Rod standing in the background at the end of the song. So this is Rod Stewart, Tonight's the Night, from A Night on the Town. Yeah, I know you don't like the slow Rod stuff. I thought I'd throw one in there.
Fair.
You know what kind of horn that was playing on there?
Mm-mm.
Pretty sure it was a saxophone.
That would explain the...
Not sure who was playing it, but it was definitely a saxophone.
That would explain the moaning, breathy French at the end of it.
I think that song actually got banned in a few countries, but it became such a big hit that it was like, no, you can't ban that. It's like, no, the consumer has spoken. We had like one of those like church get together things, like get to know you kind of things one time.
Okay.
And they had these questions about, like, I don't know, almost like one of those dating game kind of things.
Right.
And there was a couple there, and they're like saying,
like team building, things or whatever, like
just get to know people, icebreakers. Yeah. This one couple was like, "Oh, you know, we have our song. It's that one by Rod Stewart. I can't remember the name of it. They couldn't remember the name of it, and I just kept yelling out Rod Stewart songs. You know, like Tonight's the Night. No. Do You Think I'm Sexy? No. Everybody's laughing, and I was like, Hot Legs? No. And I know the song that they were thinking of was that one, Have I Told You Lately That I Love You?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kept yelling out all these other ones, like playing dumb, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like, Hot Legs? It's like, they're getting all embarrassed. But anyways, speaking of like embarrassing Rod Stewart songs, and this is a good example of Carmen Apiece. Like, I mean, you know, you hear Vanilla Fudge and you hear, you know, like Cactus and stuff. It's like, could he play like in a broader type of band that wasn't just all heavy and brash all the time? So this is off of Footloose and Fancy Free, the same album that had Hot Legs. And I wanted to play Hot Legs because I love that song so much. But instead, I picked Born Loose just so we can hear how awesome Carmen is going to be for this project. And also like how rockin' Rod can be when he wants to be. So this is Rod Stewart, Born Loose.
That song's got some chug.
Yeah, so that's the drum sound that I want from Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the version of Rod that I want. I want the version of Rod that's going to steal his daddy's cue and make a living a playing pool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you catch that little outro riff they were doing?
Mm-hmm.
Did that remind you anything? Is it reminiscent of anything? Anyways, we'll get back to that. Okay, just put a pin in that. We'll return to that shortly. But just put a pin in it for now. No spoilers. So some people might say, well, like, can Mike Campbell play stuff like that? I mean, you know, like the Heartbreakers weren't that heavy all the time or anything.
Right.
So this next song is Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs. And this is Pistol Packin' Mama. Okay, so he can do the honky tonk thing. Mm-hmm. And like the piano on that Born Loose, like I'd love to hear Billy Payne doing that kind of stuff, you know, like he does sometimes in Little Feat. I think he'd be like perfect for this project. So far, we're kind of looking at side one, right?
Yeah.
The like softer side, but not soft, like hard rockin' honky tonk kind of.
Right.
Yeah. And the other reason I put Born Loose instead of Hot Legs is because that Pistol Packin' Mama has kind of a Hot Legs feel to it.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is where, so we know Rod can do that stuff. You know, we all love the Faces, you know, Stay With Me, all his rock stuff that he's done where he gets like down and dirty. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Instead of having the slow side to go with that faster honky tonk side. Oh, and now I need to talk about the production team I want to bring in for this, my producers. Okay. So I don't want just some like flash in the pan producer, but I might consider a flash and the pan production team with Harry Vanda and George Young. And since my crazy horse that I'm bringing in is Malcolm and Angus Young, the whole album is going to be produced by Vanda and Young. But side 2, we're going to have Mike Campbell and Billy Payne like go take a smoke break, and Malcolm and Angus are going to come in for side 2. And I made that little flash and the pan pun because that was Harry Vanda and George Young's like pop project that they had in the 80s.
I figured.
Yeah, pretty nerdy. Okay, so in 1978, Vanda and Young, they produced the Power Ridge, If You Want Blood, You Got It, the first self-titled Rose Tattoo album, and The Angels Face to Face. So they did all that like in like one compressed area of time. And then after that, they also produced a band I'm going to talk about later, kind of like as a addendum to this episode. Okay. So I always thought that Angry Anderson at times could sound a little bit Rodish. So side 2, I want Malcolm and Angus and the production team of, well, I want Vanda and Young to do the whole album because they can do all kinds of stuff. But like side 2 is just basically going to be like this kind of vibe. So this is Rose Tattoo, Bad Boy for Love. And just imagine like Rod Stewart singing this and Malcolm and Angus on guitars. So yeah, that's from their first album that Vanda and Young produced, and kind of shows a little bit what they bring. But I mean, I'm just as happy to just listen to Angry Anderson and Rose Tattoo.
Yeah, what's not to like?
Right, but I always wondered, it's like, what if Rod like went a little bit heavier, like if the record execs got out of the way and like, hey, he like spent the summer in Australia or something and hung out at all the pubs, like out at the truck stations and stuff, and like met some of the locals and got some of that down under hard rock culture, a little harder edge. So yeah, anyways, my fantasy is a pretty simple one. It's just like, when I was like a 14 or 15-year-old, 13-year-old Hesher kid, like I loved Rod Stewart, but I also like at the time AC/DC was my favorite band. It's like, it's a simple fantasy, but like, what if Rod Stewart played something a little more rockin', or something heavier, like what if you could have the peanut butter and the chocolate?
Right.
I don't like Rod Stewart better than Brian Johnson or Bon Scott, but I would like to hear what Rod Stewart would do in that arena.
Right.
So that's all. And I also love Angry Anderson. He's perfect at exactly how he is.
Oh man. Yeah.
So that's my fantasy. And as I was researching my fantasy, mine's a simple thing, like a 2-sided album produced by Vanda and Young. One side LA players and the other side in Australia.
Huh.
So pretty simple formula, but instead of the soft, fast side or the slow, fast side, it would be the fast and the harder, faster side.
Nice.
So
did you have a
pretty simple.
Did you have a title for the project?
No. I'll have to think of something. Yeah, I couldn't really think anything. Maybe one of the songs they would come up with would like be also the name of the album, but
Right.
as far as band wise, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I figured the band, like, they would just come together for this one project. It wouldn't be like,
It
here's
wouldn't
this,
be an ongoing band.
yeah, here's this super group. Although we did call it the super group episode.
Well, yeah. And just the concept of a super group where you cherry pick all these
Right.
top people and throw them in a room together. Okay, are you ready for, did you have anything else to add on our projects?
No.
Before I jump into the red string segment?
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. So, I don't know, like you said, like, you never really got into Rod because to you, he was always kind of a popish singer or like too like top 40, like KZST or whatever. So you never really kind of dug too deep down the Rod thing besides listening to the Faces and stuff.
Yeah. Plus, his voice is like, I don't know, like,
if you don't like his voice, you're not going to like anything he does.
Right. Because his voice is
But I just happen to love his voice.
Yeah.
So I want to hear every possibility of what it can do.
Yeah. See, his voice isn't my favorite. So, but like, it kind of helps me understand like people who don't like Geddy Lee's voice or, name any controversial singer or whatever, or like not controversial, but you know what I mean. But it's like, okay, well, yeah, a lot of people like Rod Stewart's a legitimate, like a great singer, but it's like, I understand if it's not the right flavor for you.
Yeah, I really like that flavor.
Nice.
Yeah, even the cheesy pop stuff or the love songs or whatever, it's like, I don't know, strikes a chord with me.
Cool.
Okay, so the red string segment here.
Yeah.
So Vanda and Young, they were in the Easy Beats together. Another great band. We'll have an Australia episode. We'll have a Rose Tattoo episode. That's why I didn't go too far down the Rose Tattoo rabbit hole or pick some other songs that I could have picked.
Yeah.
But that one, I could just hear Rod Stewart singing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Rod Stewart being too pop, it's like, what happens if you take Vanda and Young, which could also do pop, but what happened if you took them and applied them to Rod Stewart's, like take Rod Stewart away from the pop producers and put them with Vanda and Young? Like, what would that metamorphosis look like, right?
Yeah.
And you talked about Geezer Butler earlier.
Yeah.
And Black Sabbath. In 1977, AC/DC was the supporting act for Black Sabbath on their tour. And apparently Geezer Butler was like in the hotel bar, like, and Malcolm Young was talking to him, and Geezer Butler started like flicking his switchblade or something like that. And Malcolm Young was like, yeah, mate, they wouldn't fly in Australia, and Geezer, they had both been drinking, I'm sure. And it kind of became a thing. So Malcolm left. Apparently the next morning he felt bad about the whole thing. So he was going up to Geezer's hotel room to apologize for the night before.
Okay.
And he ran into Ozzy. And Ozzy said, screw Geezer, he's such a and, he's always playing with that knife and stuff. It's like, you don't need to apologize to him. He's like Ozzy convinced Malcolm that he didn't need to apologize for anything that he did because Geezer was acting up. And so then apparently something happened and Malcolm Young ended up knocking out Geezer Butler instead of apologizing to him.
Whoa.
This could be misinformation, but they did get kicked off the Black Sabbath tour. And then at that same time, I'm sure there was some like heated discussions going on. And at that same time, Mark Evans got kicked out of the band. So Mark Evans was out. Cliff Williams was in after Let There Be Rock. So yeah, Highway to Hell, Back in Black. Yeah, after that Power Ridge era, 77. But then Mark Evans ended up playing with this other band that Vanda and Young decided to produce. They had already had a couple albums out, or an album out, but then Vanda and Young decided they were going to produce them. And and also in some of the other albums, we talked about Richard Hammond and Hammond organs, and the Hammond was a thing. So this is going to kind of like put a bow on all these disparate things.
Okay.
Now, you really like ABBA, right?
I am a fan.
Would you say that they're like your favorite pop group?
Yeah, probably. I don't really like a whole lot of pop, but there's just something so like adorable and sincere about ABBA.
Okay.
Plus
for the record,
they're really good. So I make no apologies.
So for the record, and as we've heard in previous episodes, Clark is a fan of ABBA.
Okay. You're casting a very wide net here. How are you going to sew this all up?
Okay, you're also a fan of AC/DC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say your favorite big cat is? Like out of all the big cats, what would you consider your favorite to be?
This is a very leading question because I've seen the playlist. My actual favorite big cat.
Oh, wrong answer. If it's not,
hear me out. My actual favorite is the Siberian tiger, just because it's huge and it's like they're so incredible. And it's like if you ever been near one in real life, it's like holy crap! This thing,
they're like kaiju. The closest thing. So they're the closest thing to what was a saber-tooth tiger.
Well, actually, saber-tooth, like Smilodon, was smaller. They were like, like 300 to 400 pounds, like a big jaguar size. Whereas, Siberian tigers.
I thought they were bigger than that.
Oh, Siberian tigers are enormous. Yeah, which is cool because it's like felines are one of the few things that like they're bigger, as big or bigger now than they like were in.
Oh, okay. I was mistaken. I also thought they were bigger just because of like the paintings,
short-faced bear and everything else.
Yeah, just because of like the Rosetta paintings I've seen and stuff. They seem really big.
Yeah, it's one of the many things Frank Frazetta is adept at accentuating.
Okay, so how are you going to steer this around to the answer I was hoping for?
Big cats.
Okay, what's your favorite medium-sized cat?
They're bigger than you think they are. I brought up Jaguar. Like I always thought, probably because of the Christopher Lambert Tarzan movie from the 80s, because they used jaguar instead of leopard in that movie. And it's like, they're both spotted cats. They both have the melanistic form. Like, I always thought they were pretty similar, but like, jaguar are like 300 pounds. They're enormous, absolute units. Leopards max out like 100, 150 pounds. They're smaller than you think they are. Again, cats being different, like the smaller a cat is, the more aggressive it is.
Hmm.
And then, I don't know, I know a lot about big cats, but the ones that I've worked with the most and actually had like hands-on dealing with are cheetahs.
So they're not your favorite?
I love cheetahs because
Okay. So you love Alba. So you love Alba. You love Alba.
Cheetahs.
You love AC/DC.
So
and you love cheetahs.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing about cheetahs is there's not a whole lot of sexual dimorphism like lions. Male lions have the mane. Like there's a slight size difference, but not anything major. But it's all in like cognitive ability and like fierceness. So male cheetahs. Oh, and they're all because they're in Africa, but they have evolved in America, specifically North America. That's why possibly we can't know entirely for sure, but why pronghorn antelope that are native to North America are so insanely fast when there is no land predator that is that fast in North America.
Yeah. Like that needs them to be that fast.
Yeah. So like the cheetahs are really like what's the word? I don't want to use the word inbred because that's too loaded a phrase. But they're like there's like genetic something or other. They went through several genetic bottlenecks. And so it's like it's incredible that like cheetah are still around because they're so adapted for what they do that it's like everything else hunts at night to avoid lions. Lions hunt during the day. They also hunt at night. Like lions rule Africa and everybody else has a chance at night. And cheetah are like, we'll do it during the day. It's fine. We'll only do this one thing. And like, they will not fight for their kill. Like, they won't defend it because they can't, because they're little sprinters. Like,
yeah, greyhounds.
They're greyhounds. And, but that being said, like male cheetahs, like they don't, like lions, famously, like have a pride, and they're like male lions that get booted out of the pride, and then like kind of foul up and wander around. But like the core, most lions operate in a tribe, where animals will be solitary or in a pack or something like that. In order to have like access to females or vice versa. And like I forget what groups of elephants, birds of elephant, they're like matrilineal, so like there are a bunch of females with a few subadult males, and then once they're sexually mature, they get booted out and then go find a different group or operate on their own.
Trample a town.
Yeah. That's usually started by the people. In almost every case. There's a story about an Indian elephant that had a beef with this lady, and like it traveled like over 100 miles, like through like a bunch of different like other elephant groups, territories and stuff, like just totally went like straight line to her grave, and like dug up her grave and like stamped on the corpse. Then went 100 miles back home. Like just no. Still got beef.
I guess when they say an elephant never forgets.
Nope.
Oh man.
Anyway, so male cheetahs will like team up sometimes in like a pair of brothers or what have you. And so they're just like, whatever, man. Like, do you feel like hunting today? Nah, man, I'm cool. All right, I'll go hunt. Like they alternate. They're kind of lackadaisical. And it's like, they're basically like really large dogs, but they're a cat. Like they're just like
the Labradors of the cat world.
Yeah, like they're not really that fierce. They just like, well, yeah, whatever. If we don't get the antelope today, we'll get them tomorrow. Because they operate either solo or usually in pairs, like two males. And whereas the females are absolutely in charge of the cubs. Like she does all the rearing of the cubs. And so like male cheetahs are pretty dumb and pretty docile. Like I've pet with my bare hands outside of a cage male cheetahs. They purr. I've taken a nap in a hammock next to not the cheetah wasn't in an enclosure like 4 feet away from me, but laying next to the fence purring while I slept in a hammock on a hot summer day. And but the female cheetah, she would only let Rob, the guy who fed her, anywhere near her enclosure. Like if you walked by like 10 feet away, she would be hissing at you. And if you got closer than 10 feet away, she'd like lunge at the fence. Like female cheetahs are fierce.
So there's no instances of like pairs of like sister cheetahs like working together?
I don't think so.
Well, there is. Well, you're talking about the African cheetahs. There's an example of a pair of sister cheetahs in Australia that work together.
Huh. Did they import the cheetahs?
Yes, actually, they were originally from England.
They had the rabbits, and the rabbits got out of control, and so they brought the cane toads over to eat the rabbits, and then the cane toads got out of control. So did they bring the cheetahs over to eat the cane toads?
Something like that.
Okay, well, we can cover this in our Australia episode.
So these cheetahs were originally from England.
Okay.
They moved to Australia. And these cheetahs are Chrissy and Lindsay Hammond. So there's the Hammond tie-in.
Okay.
So the band is Cheetah. And this is the band that Mark Evans played in after he got booted from AC/DC in 1977. And they were just kind of a pop band. So this first video on the playlist is an example of Cheetah in their like ABBA-esque phase.
Okay.
So this is Cheetah, Deeper Than Love.
That was pretty cheeseball.
It was a pretty cheeseball, but I mean, you can see where I'm getting at with the whole ABBA thing.
Yeah.
I mean, in this era, these guys being from Australia, in this era, they actually charted in Germany.
makes sense.
So it shows it. Yeah, it all makes sense.
They were on the Genghis Khan disco cocaine tour. Genghis Khan disco cocaine charts.
Oh man. Yeah. Disco Germany.
Yep.
Okay, so enter Harry Vanda and George Young and play the next one. You can play as much or as little as you want of this, but I don't mind listening to the whole thing.
Okay.
Because it's freaking rad.
So that's where it started. Like that.
That's where it started.
Like
and then enter.
Pop.
So also make the parallel. Okay, so Rod Stewart being kind of popish and me not being able to hear how he would do as a rocker. So think about enter Harry Vanda and George Young and like
the possible
think about the transformation and the parallels here.
Okay, got it.
So this is just like a promo of Cheetah from 1981, and this is Rock and Roll Women. You want to pause it and discuss, or just watch the rest?
Yes.
You want to pause it and discuss?
And watch the rest?
Okay.
Yeah, that's quite a bit different.
Quite a bit different, yeah.
Yeah, and I totally see where you're going for it. Like that second song, Rock and Roll Women, totally has like a Bon Scott vibe to it. And then like that first song, what was the name of it?
Bang Bang.
Bang Bang. Like that was pretty cool because it like,
well, let's just put it this way. They went from Deeper Than Love to Bang Bang Shot Full of Love.
Yep. So I was going to say, like, it kind of had like the verses kind of had like a Pat Benatar or like Bart kind of vibe to them.
Yeah,
like
I could hear Hard in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but you know, like a little more lyrical, a little more melodic, but then like chorus was like, whoa, that's pretty.
Oh man!
I mean, it's pretty cheesy, but it's like it's also pretty badass. Like it's really
it's cheesy. Yeah, it's cheesy until the last bang bang, because they go bang bang, bang bang, and then bang bang.
Yeah,
that last one like just sells it.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm convinced, but like full disclosure here.
Yep.
And like white boots are pretty cool too.
You know what they mean, right?
What do white boots mean?
Is it Fabulous Thunderbirds that had that song, White Boots?
Oh, that was
who had that song?
The Vaughn Brothers.
The Vaughn Brothers. Okay. In honky tonk culture, if a woman goes to the bar wearing white boots, I believe the kids are calling it ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a good thing because,
well, no,
like I mean, Issa and I were.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Issa and I were watching this.
It's a good thing, but then.
It is a good thing, but Issa and I were watching this last night and we both agreed, man, those white boots are pretty badass. And they went to like the Catholic rummage sale this morning.
Oh no.
And she found some really cool white cowboy boots.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah, your daughter's moving out of town. She picked up her white cowboy
I figure
boots.
anytime she goes out, it's going to be with you or Cena.
Probably.
So, yeah, hopefully you can defend her honor if she decides to wear her white cowboy boots going out. Maybe people aren't familiar with honky tonk culture.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I'm a sucker for a hot brunette with hoop earrings.
Right.
And, but these guys might be one of my favorite new bands right now.
They're pretty good. And it's like,
they're pretty good.
Yeah. Like I'm right there with you with the pretty brunette with hoop earrings. And like, we both chuckled in the Deeper Than Love one where the blonde sister looked at seductively at the camera, but it was a little too coked out or something.
Or something.
Or
yeah, she's got more spunk or attitude.
But
like the older sister, I think, has the better voice.
Yeah, but like, in the disco era of Cheetah, like the blonde sister wasn't really doing it for me. But in this, it's like, okay, she's pretty rad. She's growing on me.
She's pretty rad. I like her little like gestures and stuff, and like how she gets like those looks and stuff. Like when she talks about the TV chat, you know, and she has this like funky smile and stuff. It's like it's super cool.
And
the way she's dancing now, it's like, okay, they were like a disco group, but now she's doing like the rocker dance, like how you would dance when you went to a church dance when you're like young,
right?
Because like that's just how you move to the music. The music is moving me. I don't need to like do the hustle or any of that crap.
Yeah. Although, and, like
I'll probably
the disco shoulders that they were doing, that little move in the Deeper Than Love, like, and
they're wearing like leotards and stuff instead of like Jordache jeans and tank tops,
right?
Crop tops. Yeah, pretty rad. And I'll probably cut this part out, but like, I don't know, the way she's stroking that microphone stand at the end of Rock and Roll Woman there, it's like, okay, mercy, begging for mercy now.
Tapping out.
Yep. Well, not tapping out, but.
Oh, man.
Anyways, let's listen to the rest before we get into trouble here.
Or the podcast takes a new turn.
All songs written by Vanda and Young.
Yep.
Produced by Vanda and Young. Yeah, I mean, when the songs get cheesy, it's like, still enjoy the show.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still pretty good.
Yeah, like that last song's kind of AOR a little bit.
I was going to say that. Like, the beginning of
keyboards
it. Like, like the intro and like when she first comes out singing, it's like, dang. Like, it's a good song, but it's like, man, it starts off so strong. Like, it's like, where's this going to go?
Yeah.
But it's like that hook is like,
My Man.
Yeah, that one's pretty
The My Man is a little like, I don't know. There's a place for it. But those first two, man, they're just bangers, Yeah,
the first two are bangers. The fourth one's solid. Yeah.
Yeah. And the first two, just because they give me that AC/DC kind of vibe,
for sure.
And I mean, they have good rock vocals,
Totally.
I mean, especially the older sister, man, she's great.
Well, they're
both great.
Yeah, I was going to say,
both great. They're just different, but like the older sister, like, she's like another notch above, I think.
Yeah, then the younger sister can like, have that little bit of grit in her voice and like, a little bit like attitude. It's like,
like if you just listen to it, it's like, it's kind of hard to tell them apart a little bit. But like once you listen to them for a while, it's like, oh yeah, that's Chrissy. Oh yeah, that's Lindsay.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'd never heard of that band.
Yeah, I hadn't either. Oh, I mean, I had heard of them. But it's like, well, I want to find out more about like what Vanda and Young were doing around this time period. And then, reading about Mark Evans leaving AC/DC and stuff. It's like, whoa, what have we here?
Right.
I don't know. I just thought I could sell you on a new band that you might like because they kind of are a cross between ABBA and AC/DC.
A little bit.
A little bit. Anyways, that's my rabbit hole for the night.
Nice.
Or my rabbit trail.
Yeah. It's like if ABBA hadn't broken up, or had broke
Or
up.
if they dumped that dude and the other guy like left to go console his friend, and they went on a vacation to down under because they'd just seen like Crocodile Dundee and they thought it'd be fun to go to Australia, and they liked it down there from when they made their documentary, and
or
so they wanted to return.
Or if they stayed in Sweden, or like there's also like all the Dutch bands we've talked about. Like if like the girls from ABBA have been like, oh yeah, like we want to change a pace, and they like hooked up with some like Euro rockabilly dudes.
Or Bon Scott's passing some management companies like get their wires crossed, and AC/DC is holding auditions for new singers, and like somehow some scheduling, like somebody drops the ball or something, or like some wires get crossed somewhere, and the two ladies from ABBA show up for this rehearsal, and it's with AC/DC, and it's like, wait, no,
two record company like personal assistants like are like overworked, and they're like rushing down the hallway and bump into each other, and like the papers get all scattered.
They're Post-its. Yeah,
and like the
get
list,
in the wrong folder.
Yeah, the audition lists get swapped.
Oh, man. Yeah, and they're like, oh, wait, yeah, there must be something wrong here. And it's like, well, you're here.
Yeah, or like here's the sample song we want you to play. It's like, oh, okay, this is a little out of what we usually do, but here goes.
Yeah, you're already here. Let's just hear what it sounds like.
Yeah,
for kicks. We don't have anybody else coming in until 3:30. So.
Or like they don't get the mix up until later. Like in the sitcom, like the PAs find out about it, and they're like, yeah, do we fess up? Like, how do we, the rock, the AC/DC producer is like, oh yeah, okay, well, you're next on our list. Here's the song we want you to play or you perform. Like, let's hear it.
Yeah, learn this song.
Yeah. And like the girls are like, okay, sure, let's do it. And then like, I don't know, what would the opposite be? Like,
well,
what singer we get mixed up with what other band? Like who would ABBA in this hypothetical scenario? Who would the girls from ABBA be?
ABBA and the AC/DC. So it's like in like some early computer filing system thing, like they're doing it alphabetically, and so like it's like, oh well, it's all these capital A's. Like, oh wait, what address are they supposed to go to?
Oh man.
And then the best fiction has a sliver of truth in it. So the girls from ABBA show up there, and AC/DC's waiting around, and they're like, well, we might as well give it a go, because this guy from Geordie was supposed to come and try out, but he hasn't shown up yet.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, Brian Johnson's downstairs shooting pool with all the crew.
Which
actually happened.
Nice. So what if it is like the personal assistant mix up? Like they each pick up each other's like audition list.
The A folders.
Yeah, the A folders. And like the A folder and the B folder get switched. And but the whatever, like it's the chocolate and peanut butter mix up.
Yeah.
And they're like, crap. Like they both find out about it as they're like going to get more cups of coffee or whatever. And they're like, crap, do you like, I think I have your audition list. Do you have mine? And they're like, oh no, we're totally going to get fired. They're like, what do we do?
Meanwhile, in Sweden, what's happening?
Yeah. Meanwhile, like, the girls from ABBA are like gelling with AC/DC, and then Brian Johnson
shows up at an audition in Sweden.
Yeah, or like for the they're somehow in
rehearsal.
the same studio or whatever, just in different rooms. And so Brian Johnson.
Oh, Studio A, Studio B.
Yeah. So Brian Johnson, like who do you think he would be auditioning for? And like who do you think the girls from ABBA would be like trying to join?
Maybe they're just supposed to have a rehearsal like with their own band.
Maybe.
They ended up in the wrong studio. And then Brian Johnson ended up in the studio with like the two dudes from ABBA. They're just looking at each other like, what?
We do this?
What's going on? Oh, man.
Yeah, now I want to hear Brian Johnson sing Knowing Me, Knowing You.
Fernando.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
Oh, man,
we should wrap this.
This is gonna hurt.
We should wrap this one up.
It's gonna hurt. I think I need the.
Oh no!
I need the flat cap too. Maybe we should stop recording before I even try. It's like I have just enough. I think I have just the perfect amount of phlegm in my voice. I'll be able to do it.
Let's hear it. We can cut it out if we need to.
All right, I'm losing courage. I can't do it.
I don't know if I can do a Brian Johnson.
Yeah, it's like I used to listen to AC/DC a lot at work, and it's like, sometimes you sing along with a band or with a singer, and it's like, okay, like I know I can't sing as good as them, and it's like I'm mostly just hearing them as I sing along. And then it's like Bon Scott was kind of like that. But then Brian Johnson, it's like, you can't you can't not sing like that, or not try at least. Like you can't just sing normal along with Brian Johnson. You just have to stop because you just can't. Like it hurts too much.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I don't know how he does it. Okay, well, we should wrap this one up. Anyways, yeah, I would love to hear both these albums, but like, if we can't hear our fantasy things, maybe the promise of AI will come true someday, and we can put something together. But like in the meantime, Cheetah's just gonna have to fulfill my fantasies for me.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. There are other bands that like come pretty close to what I want to hear, like Wishbone Ash or that Witch Hazel band.
Oh yeah,
but it's like, yeah, none of them really do it. But then, like, I don't know, maybe a band like Church of the Cosmic Skull will do a concept album.
Oh yeah,
they've already done concept albums. What am I talking about?
Yeah,
maybe there'll be a band like.
Yeah, they get some of that ABBA kind of vocal cycles going and stuff.
Yeah, the vocal harmonies.
Yeah.
Man, there's got to be, as much as I love like Irish trad, like a super nerdy Irish hard rock band, like Wishbone Ash,
somebody that could actually make that album.
Yeah.
Well, my next musical project I want to do, if I don't just do a Rose Tattoo tribute band, like I was told Eric when I was playing with him that like, yeah, my next band that I want to do, so this is like back in the 90s, I wanted to do this. My next band I want to do is going to be like AC/DC, but there's also going to be lap steel guitar in it.
Okay.
So it's like if David Lindley filled in in AC/DC somehow. But like Rose Tattoo is kind of that, because the one guitar player just plays like bottleneck slide.
Right.
And it has that AC/DC sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's as close to the formula as I've gotten.
Right.
And Angry Anderson sounds like Rod Stewart. There's like little hints and whiffs of Rod Stewart at times.
Right.
They're like in the same register, and he gets the same rasps sometimes.
Right.
In certain, but he can like pound it out a little stronger.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I just need to find somebody that can sing like Angry Anderson. And I would have loved if he filled in for Brian instead of that other guy.
Well, my next
Anyways,
musical project, because I'll definitely get around to it. Everybody hold your breath.
Oh, that's right. The Normal tribute band. Nice. Our next episode, since we're wrapping up the end of the year here, we're going to have a Christmas songs that don't suck episode. Well, at least in our opinion, they don't suck.
Yeah, one of my favorite Christmas albums, one of my coworkers just absolutely hated. Whenever I listened to it, she'd be like, "How can you stand that?" It's like, what? It's good. You'd rather listen to Mariah Carey over and over again?
Yeah, everything else, it's our opinion, but in our opinion, these Christmas songs won't suck. But next week, before we get to the Christmas episode, and we'll have it out in time for Christmas, so you can throw up our Christmas playlist if you want to check it out while you're decorating your tree or stuffing stockings. But next week, since we're wrapping up the year, our next episode will be our favorite new releases that came out in 2024.
Nice.
Are you up for that?
I am.
Do you have some? Okay, good.
Got a couple picks.
Yeah. It might not be a super long episode, and I know I say that every single time.
Right.
But this one may not be long because a lot of my favorite stuff that came out is probably stuff that was recorded during COVID. So it came out like 2022, 2023.
Right.
But there's some good stuff that came out in this last year.
Indeed.
So, we'll pick our favorites and share them with you. Yeah, if you have your own fantasy record combinations you would like to hear, your own super groups you'd like to put together, shoot us an email.
Let us know.
Yeah, we'd be curious to hear what other people have all thought. You know what would be cool?
Yeah, that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, everybody have a great week. Stay warm, stay dry, and looking forward to the new year coming up.
Yep. Thanks for listening.
Bye. Yep. Bye.
Checking out music with my bro. Willing to dig it, yes or no? Here